Welcome to the special 2020 pandemic edition of Question Marks. From surviving in difficult times to thriving. Question Marks is a weekly podcast that offers inspiring answers and solutions to the most important questions and challenges of our lives via two of the brightest minds of our time. Described as visionaries, thought leaders, and insightful innovators in the field of human empowerment, our co-hosts, Victor Hansen and MARK Fournier, have a combined experience of well over 80 years in the personal and career development industries. Victor Hansen is the world's most published author in the field of human development, co-creator of the famed Chicken Soup series, deemed the publishing phenomenon of the decade by Time magazine. With more than 500 million books sold around the world and over 100 licensed products in the marketplace, Mark is also a highly sought-after speaker, trainer, and humanitarian. MARK Fournier, a 3-time Emmy Award-winning psychotherapist, is considered by many to be among the most effective career and life coaches in the world. Known for his expertise in achieving life mastery and balance, and for helping entrepreneurs launch and build highly successful businesses. He is also an award-winning author and columnist, a gifted speaker and trainer, a humanitarian and social entrepreneur. The producer and moderator of today's event is Deanne Lenson. As an NLP practitioner, 4-time best-selling author, and advanced aesthetics educator, she is said to have dissected the cosmetic industry with its own fine-tooth comb and created powerful self-esteem support for women. If you wish to ask questions, please email them to questions@questionmarks.online. And if you would like to learn more about our weekly podcast or wish to gain additional tools and support, please go to our landing page, questionmarks.online.
Hello, my name's Deanne Lenson, and I'm the producer and moderator of today's show. My long-term love of coaching and contributing to other people makes me so honored to work with these two experts. If you would like to have your questions as part of our show, just simply send an email to questions@questionmarks.online. And if you'd like to know more about our programs, our books, coaching, seminars, then go to www.questionmarks.online. And now let's get some wonderful answers from our two experts. The first question is to Victor Hansen, and Kelly asks, being stuck at home is driving my family and me to distraction. How can we get through this, especially if it lasts for months?
There's a ton of ways to do it. As a matter of fact, inspired by your question, Kelly, I got to tell you that one of the smartest women I know and I are writing, what to do in isolation, because it looks like we're going to get stuck here for a while. I happen to like the isolation because I've spent my whole life traveling 250,000 miles a year, but most people probably don't like that. But I would ask you to do a couple things. Instead of considering it a curse, considering it a cure to everything that has ever ailed you, because now you got the freedom to think, to meditate, to pray, to really intensively be with your family, to start to discover who you are at depth, because Socrates, the great wise man of Athens, said, the unexamined life is not worth living. So for the first time ever, you get to examine your life and examine what your beliefs are, examine what your values are, your attributes, your characteristics. And if you go depth to the soul, and then get your spouse and kids to start doing the same, it's amazing how well you'll get along. And I'll just do one cute thing I just sent to Deanne and Mark, and that was my own grandkids live here in the neighborhood. So yesterday they did a heart attack. They cut out they're 5-year-old twins and an 8-year-old, and they cut out little hearts and put them all over the door, and then they pounded like crazy on the door, and I ran to the door, and they said, Grampy, we're giving you a heart attack. Oh. And that would never have happened if we weren't in isolation.
That's adorable. That's adorable. I love that you said to really be present with your family, because this is a time when we get to make that choice. And when we were courting our significant others, we were marketing ourselves and we were being the best we can be. This is a good time to start that all over again, isn't it?
Indeed.
Mark Fournier.
Well, they'll start with agreeing, of course, as I almost always do with Mark, and his what he's really talking about is mindset. So starting with this term of being stuck at home, that's a being stuck at home mindset. Imagine the appreciation mindset, the times that you weren't able to be at home. You know, I'm dreaming of a white Christmas, if only I could be there. Anytime you were traveling, and wishing that you could be where you are right this moment. And so just remember, it is human nature to want what we don't have. That drives us to greater heights, but it also can drive us to distraction. And so imagine that you take a break from that and just say, wait a minute, what if I just, to quote Byron Katie, love what is? And here I am in my home with my family, and I have this amazing opportunity to just be and just love who I am, where I am right at this moment, and be in this moment. And that, of course, takes us to a state of appreciation. Be in that appreciation for what you still have and for the life that you have in front of you, and the fact that you have a home to be in. We don't need to spend a lot of time looking at the news to see that there are people in India standing in 5-mile-long lines hoping to get on a bus that may take them back home, if they can even get the ride, and the home they go back to isn't something that we would necessarily be excited about. So remember, if you're comparing your life, whether it's comparing it to how your life used to be or comparing it to someone else's life, don't compare up. Don't compare the worst parts of your life with the best parts of theirs. Do the exact opposite. And I guarantee you, you'll find that you are in the very top percentage of the most blessed people on this planet. And that may give you another reason to start appreciating where you are. And finally, when you said something about what if this lasts for months? Well, how about if you start right now and think of this as this is the new norm? Quit thinking it's going to go back. I just want it to go back to the way things were. That kind of thinking is going to cause you a lot of pain and suffering in the future. Life moves on, and let it be. Okay, so things have changed. And that's great, because now I get to find a new way of being. And I'm committed to making sure that this new version is even better than the past. And you get to start practicing today.
Wow, that's so powerful, Mark. There's just so many places that my heart wants to add to this, but that was just so complete. I'm just going to let it go and go to the next one. And I'd like you, Mark Fournier, to start with this one, if you will. April says, I'm riddled with fear and anxiety. I keep asking myself, what if this pandemic sends us into a depression and I lose everything?
Yeah. And you're not the only person with that concern, but I'm going to give you a couple of tools that I think will help you through this. And let's begin with this. You're describing a fear state, obviously, a victim fear state. I'm feeling hopeless and helpless. And keep in mind, all fear, 100% of all fear is about the future. You don't fear the past. You don't even fear this moment. It's always about something, whether it's 10 seconds or 10 years ahead of us. You're fearing something, a future that doesn't exist. There's an infinite number of possible outcomes. And if you pick one that doesn't serve you, one that causes you pain and suffering or limits you, and focus on that, it's going to generate fear. But remember, we're not fortune tellers. It's classic cognitive behavioral therapy. We don't know what's going to happen. So how about picking a version that serves you? Because there is one. There's a version where you come out on the other side of this in much better condition, emotionally, mentally, even physically, depending on what you do with this time. And also keep this in mind. We tend to play the what if game, the worst case scenario. We think of what's the worst thing that could happen. And then we not only go to the worst spot, but we stop as if then life will end on that day when it hits the worst. So I love to suggest give the best case equal time at least. You're going to spend time thinking about worst. Well, what's the best case scenario? How could this turn into something amazing and incredible so that you can, in the future, end up in a better place? So spend some time thinking, okay, but what if this turns out really well? And at the very least, even if things don't go quite the way you wanted, remember, it's not over until you stop moving forward. So with a little bit of grit, even if this turns out a little less than how you'd like it to, you still get to wake up the next morning and say, okay, what am I going to do about that? What can I do to turn things around? And finally, put things in perspective. You won't lose everything. what's everything? You won't lose your eyesight. You won't lose your family. You won't lose love. You won't lose the blue skies or the green trees. The things that you lose will probably not be anything close to the things you truly need, which are simply food, shelter, water, and oxygen. For the most part, we're usually pretty well covered there.
I love it. I love it. Mark, Victor, would you please answer that for us?
By the way, I agree with everything he said, and I'm going to just plus it in two different ways. Number one, we could go into depression. If we do, then I hope you're making money during this stay at home, and you figured out how to go virtually and videographically, and are using your cell phone to sell whatever it is that you've got that you could sell that's legitimate and legal and honest. So you make a lot of money, and then if you make a lot of money and it does go into lower times, make sure you buy in the market and buy the stuff that's going to exponentially grow, because we're going to go into the greatest market in human history. I predict we're going to do $50 trillion in this decade. It's never been done before, with everything from 5G to trash to cash. I've got a company I'm a part of that's turning garbage into all its resources, whether it's metal or glass or plastic or fuels. It's exceedingly exciting. And then you got all the AI cooler than cool stuff. You've got Tesla turning the world around with electric cars, but it's not a car. Watch Kathy Woods on YouTube, and you'll see that it's 7 things. It's a computer on wheels. He's about to go from 2-dimensional travel to 3-dimensional travel, so we'll never have a traffic jam again, which is one of the reasons I left Metro LA. I lived in Newport Beach. That's that part. The other part is, let's talk about how we're going to get over this. And as we do this, it could have happened by the time you're seeing this, because this is going to be timely. But we've now decided that there's this great stuff called hydroxychloroquine. And if you add that to erythrozine, which is called Z-Pak, those two things are working well in France. They've just tested in the biggest hospital in New York. 699 patients have gotten cured of this. And we now know that as of yesterday, again, if you're seeing this 2 months from now, you're going to go, oh, well, that's old news. But one company, Novartis, said, we'll make 140 million pills and give them to you, Mr. President, and you give them out. So my prediction, which I think will bear well, is I think we're going to make 1 billion pills, and then we're going to make 8 billion pills, one for everybody in the planet. And we're going to get rid of this scourge, and the whole world is going to come out, and it's going to come out fast. It's going to come out better. And if that were to happen, make sure that you also take care of stuff nutritionally. And later on in this call, I expect Mark and DA and I will be talking about that. But the fact of the matter is, it does need to be balanced with stuff like coenzyme Q10, to make sure your heart works and your liver. You need to do a detoxification. I won't even recommend that. You're going to have to go online and find it out for yourself. But there's lots. I'm a nutritionist, married to a nutritionist, but amongst other degrees. But it behooves you to know more than you do, and quit studying the worst. Like Mark said, let's study the best. Let's plan to go somewhere extraordinary. Let's go somewhere wonderful. Let's decide what our destiny is, because that's why I wrote this little book called Ask, The Bridge from Your Dreams to Your Destiny. And I hope all of you get one, because you have a magnificent, powerful, luminally relevant, opportunistic destiny that is beyond anything you ever thought, but it's not out there, it's in here. And the last point is I believe everyone needs to be reading self-help action books now and forever. And I am an addict of them and have read thousands. But one is called Acres of Diamonds. Russell Conwell started the university, gave it 6,000 times. And Acres of Diamonds says you got acres of diamonds inside, more than you'll ever find out on the ground. It's a great story. It's a parable, and you'll love it. Just to uplift you in these times. And once you get inside that quiet place, you're going to find, oh my God, I got all these great opportunities.
Wow. So well said, and so poignant, coming from somebody who has published over 500 million chicken soup for the soul books. Pardon me. That was easy for me to say.
It's a mouthful. That's a lot of books.
Time magazine called them the publishing phenomenon of the decade. And you also teach people to write their own book. And that's an opportunity for somebody, if they are looking for something to do right now, to be able to tell their story. That's very, very powerful.
We've got 2 books that I've read.
So go ahead. Sorry,
because you brought it up. I wrote another book called You Have a Book in You, and I think everyone has a book in them, and everyone ought to write a book. And some of you say, I don't know what to write. If you read my book, it'll inspire you at the depth of why you need to communicate that. And then we have a book right behind it called Speed Write Your Life Story or Your Autobiography. And everyone's got one. And wouldn't it be nice to know what our great-great-grandfather or grandmother did, said, felt, how they're married, how many kids they had, what they did, what their strengths were, because that's part of your ancestral heritage, and it's part of our DNA and RNA, and we can't necessarily go backwards and get them to do it, but you and I can do it. And if you've got this downtime, please have at writing it, and we take you through it 22 minutes a day. In 90 days, you'll go from no ancestral autobiography to an ancestral autobiography. And the other thing that Mark just said to you a second ago is that if you do this kind of stuff, you will start to discover who you really are in all the best scenarios that are possible.
Wow, I love it. So the next question for you, Victor Hansen, please, from James. He says, I'm having a very hard time working from home. I'm sure a lot of people are feeling this. It's too chaotic and distracting. I can't stay focused. I just want to watch TV and go back to bed.
So let me do it with the story of a friend of mine now named Jim Stovall. And I never met the guy until Charlie Tremendous Jones said, I know you're selling 15 million books a year, but you got to write a forward to this. This is the greatest book you ever read. And I said, okay, only because you, Charlie, I'll read it. I read The Ultimate Gift and I was wild. I said, this should be a movie. Long story short, Jim Stovall is 18 years old, a superstar physically. His whole life has been a vision that his destiny was to be an NFL player. He gets recruited. They test him. The doctor comes back and said, I'm sorry to tell you this, kid, but in 6 months, you're going to be permanently and forever blind. He is incarcerated like this guy in a 9-by-12 room. He feels downtrodden, despondent, depressed, disconsolate. His parents said, look, go to a blind meeting, see what they say. He arrives at the blind meeting and he sits next to a blind woman who is a court stenographer and does a really good job. And he's saying, look, in my 9-by-12 room, I got a radio, I got a telephone, and I got a television. I used to love to watch thrillers, and I could understand when I could see a right hook thrown, and I'd understand it, but somebody ought to do something about that. Well, that was a pivotal question of his life, just like this. I hope what Mark and I and Dee are sharing with you is a pivotal meeting in your life. But the lady next to him says, why? Why should somebody do something about it? You and I are somebody. We can do something about it, and all of us have got that going on right now. You and I are somebody. We can do something about it. And what he started was narrative TV, and that is now watched. It was bigger at one time than Netflix. 14 million people paying $10 a month to see what the action is in a movie or a TV show. And then he's written movies like Ultimate Gift and a lot of others. He's become very prolific, all because I said you ought to make it a movie, and he did. He finished a line in our book, Ask, that said, I love it so much. He said, I now write books that I can't read, and I make movies that I can't see.
Wow, what a contribution to society.
Yeah, self-incarceration can be a good thing.
If we just decide not to be a victim and to work on contributing to other people, I love it. Mark Fournier, this one's for you. Beth says, I feel like my whole life has been put on hold. I don't want to just sit around waiting and hoping things will work out. What can I do?
Oh, it's a great question. Would you mind if I commented on the question beforehand, before I jumped into this one? That'd be okay? That's great. And again, Mark, following you, remind me never to follow you up onto the stage, because it's like I'll just stand up there and say, what did he say? This guy just nails it.
That's not true. I love listening to you. You're brilliant, wise, sagey. And you got a difference of thinking than anyone on the planet. You're unique. You've got a masterpiece of the thumbprint and a brain print like everybody watching.
Well, thank you, Mark. I just feel like I've been coached right off the chart here. Thank you. I'll keep that in mind. Appreciate that extra little tidbit. So I'll pass that on to you as you're listening to the video, what he's just said. So same goes back to all of you. And this idea of being sequestered to your home, where it can be challenging at first. And so one thing I do say from a practical standpoint is make sure you have a designated workspace. Don't just clear off a little corner of your kitchen counter and try to get your work done. That'll work for an afternoon or two, but after the course of a few weeks, you'll start to find yourself in a really competing for that space and for some peace of mind. So whether it's a bedroom somewhere, find a space and say, this is my workspace. Let everybody know, set your boundaries and consequences. Tell them these are the hours that I'll be working. If you need something, save it until this time, just like you would in the real world. They get to save their questions until you come home from work. So you need to train the people in your life to do that, but you also need to train yourself. You don't just get up 5 times a day and go to the kitchen when you're at work. And so you start pretending, this is my workplace, this is when I'm most productive. It doesn't mean you take advantage of being at home. Take those little mini breaks, but make sure that you first break your life into certain goals throughout the day. So I'm going to finish this one report, and when I'm done, I can go in and grab a glass of whatever, and or a cup of coffee, or I can walk around the house for a minute, and I'm coming back and going right back at it. When you work from home, it's not as much a 9-to-5 thing, because you'll start to realize that you can work throughout the day, throughout the night, and you'll start to discover your true circadian rhythms. When are you at your best? I'm a morning person. I get up, and before I've showered or anything, I get straight to my desk, because I could solve the problems of the universe at 6 a.m., but at 10 o'clock at night, I just drool in front of Netflix, and that's about the most you'll get out of me. So, don't call me at 10 o'clock at night for a coaching session, because it won't be worth much. So once you get that, something that Mark said about taking advantage of this, and he's wonderful at as a quick prognosticator, telling you what is probably going to happen, and everything he said so far, I concur. And I'll tell you something else. This concept of the home office, working at home, the virtual lifestyle, not only will this not go away, certainly not completely, why would we want it to? Right now, we're outside of our comfort zone, and that's causing a little bit of difficulty and challenge, a little pain and suffering, but that's how we get to the next level. There's a version where, imagine, where 50% of the workforce ends up saying, you know what, I think I like this, I'm going to stick around. And the traffic cuts in half, our energy consumption cuts down, our fuel, automobiles, bill expenses, the pollution on the freeways, and on it goes. There are so many things that would be better if more and more of us started working and functioning more from home, that we can't even predict how much better this world might be. So it may not go to that completely, but you are in a position right now to ask the question, how could I capitalize on this, not only in my own life, and perhaps I will start spending, whether it's a week at home, or maybe I'll only go to the office 1 day a week. And how could that improve my life and the world as well? But that's a business. We actually, as a coach, one of the things I do with my clients is I help them to be more effective from home. I give them options so they don't have to go into work every day. And that frees up all sorts of times. The ones with 2 hours a day of commute time, they gain that extra time, more time with their family. So what business could you create that might capitalize on this being at home concept? And there's definitely an opportunity here. And of course, the last thing is the self-discipline required to be effective when you're working at home. And yeah, go easy on yourself. It takes self-discipline in order to take total control of this concept, but that takes time to develop. So go easy. Again, set up little goals that you can accomplish, and over time, you'll get better and better at it, and you'll find that self-discipline will start to come naturally as it develops into a habit. So just put that on the list and be easy on yourself in the meantime, and on the folks around you as well.
I love it. The Pareto.
You can ask me another question.
And I would just like to comment quickly on that, because what's so important is to recognize that what gets measured gets done. And when you write out what you need to do, your A tasks, your B tasks, your C tasks, and don't touch a B till you finished all the A's, you're going to get things done in quick manner, and then you're going to have lots of time left over, like you said. I love it. Okay, the next question, Beth. Beth's been waiting, actually.
Is that the one that I had missed before I go in to reread that for me?
Yeah, yeah. I feel like my whole life has been put on hold. I don't want to just sit around waiting and hoping things will work out. What can I do?
Well, now our answers are going to start sounding a little bit more and more similar, because we're giving some broad spectrum answers that will apply to pretty much everywhere area of your life and every crisis or challenge or catastrophe, because these are what I call universal principles, and they're principles that apply pretty much to every major issue. They're the principles that every culture and every religion has been founded on, and they agree with. So the idea that like happiness isn't about having what you want, it's about wanting what you have, going back to loving what is. So a huge principle is the idea that good leaders avoid crises and catastrophes, while great leaders capitalize on them. And if you think about not just your life, about the world at large, the greatest accomplishments on this planet, including your own, are almost without exception the result of having faced and overcome some kind of a challenge, which may well have been considered to be a crisis at the time. And so you have that opportunity right now to ask, how can I not just survive? That's why we're calling this thrive. How can I capitalize on this new world? How can I capitalize on this virtual world, on this new relationship that I have with myself, with my family? Mark is so good at giving you opportunities and possibilities. Write that bio, get his book, figure out how you can write that. And in fact, he does it. How long was that? How long does it take, Mark?
90 days, 22
90
minutes
days.
a day. But you could do it a lot faster because you got a lot more than 22 minutes a day in lockdown.
That's right. You're at home. You can do it in 30 days.
There
By
you
the
go.
time this thing's over, you can have your book.
And you'll
Oh
know
my gosh,
stuff
it's a
people
great
didn't know about you.
What's that?
People know about themselves infinitely better.
Absolutely. In fact, the oldest known philosophy on the planet Earth, it's only 2 words. And it goes back to to Imhotep, who was the high priest of Egypt. And it's scrolled across the top of the entry to some of the pyramids. It's only 2 words again. Now, Imhotep, by the way, arguably the most brilliant man who ever lived, credited as the inventor of modern medicine, the inventor of the pyramid, modern mathematics, modern science, well, and also philosophy, it appears. 2 words: know thyself. It seems simple, but very few people ever truly get to know who they are. Why do I think and feel the way I do? What conditioning is driving that, and does that serve me? You write that book, and at the end of it, you may get to know yourself once and for all, and then it's easy to figure out what's best for you and what you want to do next.
It's certainly.
I can what he said.
Go ahead.
Pardon?
Thank you. Is it the other thing is what he's saying is great leaders, and one of the great leaders of all time, the greatest, maybe live right now, is Elon Musk. I want to give 2 quick examples. They're ready to shut him down, put him out of business with Tesla. And he said, no, wait. You need something, and I'm going to get it for you. And he said, what do we need? We need ventilators. So he said, I already called Medtronics, and they can't make them. And I've got metal. I've got engineers. I've got 3D printing. I've got everything here. We'll have them made. How fast do you want them? Oh, you want them next week? I'll have them made next week. Because he does the impossible because he thinks he can. We talk about Parkinson's law, which says time expands or contracts based on how much you give it. If you say, I'm going to finish this task this fast, that's what you'll do. The other example is that Australia, the lights go out in southwestern Australia. I've been there a bunch of times, like 12 times I've talked in Australia, and they're all pulling out their hair, and the prime minister doesn't know what to do. And Elon Musk calls and said, look, you want energy? You got a lot of solar. If you'll give me the land, I will bring in all the equipment. It'll cost $1 billion. You'll have 100 megawatts of power. I'm in the power energy business. That's a lot of power. And he said, I'll do it in 90 days. Everybody will have lights on permanently forever after, plus battery storage. And if I don't do it in 90 days, I eat the $1 billion. And did he do it? Of course, he did what was impossible, because that's who humans are. One of our greatest capacities is that we have this thing he calls it grit. I call it ingenuity. It doesn't matter whether you call it ingenuity or grit. We all got it. You're born over and done. You're born with 18 billion brain cells. I can tell you that I got ridiculed as a kid, as a writer, ridiculed as a young writer, you're doing little stupid stories. Well, I've sold a lot of little stupid stories. And I plan on continuing to hit my goal, which is $1 billion. I'm only halfway there. And I'm 72 and plan to live 127 options for renewal, because he said do little goals. That's true. But you need to have a big goal. And I'll finish with this little idea. Bill Gates says, look, in the short term, we expect too much, but in the long term, most of us don't think big enough. So I'm asking you to do both what he said and what I said. Wait, way too many goals. Just go crazy. Everything that you want, including travel. Because right now you can travel everywhere on Southwest Airlines one way for $39 because there's nobody traveling.
Oh my God.
Oh my gosh, Mark. And Deanne, please forgive me. I can't help but put a bow on what Mark just said. You know, we keep on just adding one more little thing to the other one's comments. And I just, my gosh, I think he and I must read all the exact same books, follow all the exact same people. And there's a reason for it, right?
Yeah.
So with Elon Musk, I have a term for the way he sees the world and the way he performs. I call it limitless consciousness. In fact, that's my moniker. I'm the limitless coach. And that's how you find me as a coach. And my purpose is to help folks not just find what they want, but help them get what they want by helping them see their limitless potential. And it starts with, again, the mindset. It's a consciousness. It's the idea that anything is possible. It's just a matter of how and when. If you look around the room right now, in any home you're in, almost nothing in that room in its current form existed 100 years ago. Even if it's something that you've seen, even if it's wooden, they didn't make it the way they do now. It's probably veneer. In fact, that didn't exist. And it wasn't lathed the way it is with computers now. So if you think that 100 years ago, almost nothing in your room existed, which means anyone could have said, well, this is not possible. It was all possible. It was just a matter of when it was going to happen and how. And you can accelerate the creation of anything with the ingenuity described by Mark. So human beings are the most resourceful creatures in the known universe. And that's something that you can build on.
Wow, listen to these two. We are so fortunate to have both of you together. You know, the publishing phenomenon of the decade, and Mark Fournier is one of the most amazing career, performance, and life balance coaches I've ever met. We're just honored to be here. I have one more question for the two of you, though. I'm going to jump down to this one because I think we really need to talk about a little bit about personal wellness in this time. So Amy says, I'm so bored just sitting around the house and all I do is eat. And since I can't go to the gym, I'm gaining weight like crazy. So let's do Mark Fournier and then Victor.
All right, thank you. Well, believe me, I dealt with that for the first week or so myself. I started eating, and it was like, oh, you know, there is the refrigerator is awfully close to the office, but I'm used to that. I've been working from home for many, many years. Although I did find a little more time on my hands at first. Once I adjusted, like Mark will probably tell you, I'm the busiest I've been, and for as long as I can remember, there's so many things that I've wanted to work on, and now I'm squeezing them in right down to this little podcast, getting a chance to work with the two of you and create this. So one thing, of course, is stay busy. Stay busy. You know what they say, that idle hands are a devil's workshop. Well, they're also a gastronomical disaster. So stay busy, doing things that you love, things that you're passionate about. It will keep your mind busy and so you'll be less likely to just run to the refrigerator. But another thing is, don't confuse nutrition, or we'll just say diet and exercise. Don't confuse the two. They're not synonymous. Those are two different things. And if you had to choose between diet or nutrition and exercise, there's absolutely no question which is more important. If you forego eating the right foods, which, by the way, this new lifestyle of ours doesn't keep us, it doesn't mean that we can't still have healthy food. The exercise might be a little bit trickier, but the food's the most important thing anyhow. If you ate nothing but sugar and fat all day long, I don't care if you exercise 24 hours a day, you'll still be unhealthy. You can still die of a heart attack with all that plaque in your arteries. So let it be number one, I am going to eat food. And I break it into two categories, fuel and poison. And that makes it kind of stark. It makes it easy to realize what you're doing to your body. Is it fuel or poison? And you know the difference. I don't have to tell you what they are. It's pretty clear what a Krispy Kreme donut is versus even an apple. And so even if you don't stop, as you're biting into that donut, say poison. I'm poisoning myself. Okay, I acknowledge it. I'm aware of it. And here goes. And as you serve that to your children, I'm poisoning my children. It starts to change the mindset. It makes it more and more difficult to keep doing it. And I'm putting fuel in my body. Oh, and this feels so good. It's going to help me to be healthier and so on. So one, this is the time. And if you are going off to the grocery stores and hoarding things, don't stock up on the pastries. Go on in there and buy the foods that you've been wishing your kids would eat anyhow. Well, once you run out of the other stuff, you'll find out that wild caught salmon can be prepared in many ways, and they may enjoy it with some teriyaki on there. It's kind of sweet. Now, with the exercise part, you can work at home, for crying out loud. You know, they didn't have weights for the last 10,000 years. I mean, they used to use other things. In fact, progressive weight training was invented when a fella took a baby cow, a calf, picked it up and carried it across his estate, and then the next day he carried it, and the next, and the next, and the next. As that cow gained weight, he got stronger and stronger until he was the only man on earth who could lift a full-grown cow. Well, you can be doing something similar. You got kids, pick them up, carry them around, weightlift with those kids. They'll love it. There are so many things, push-ups and pull-ups and sit-ups and jumping up and down. These are things that once the commitment is there, because that's really all it is, isn't it? It's a commitment. I'm committed to burning at least as many calories as I consume. Absolutely. Once the commitment is there, you'll find a way. There are plenty of ways to keep your body in motion. And that's without even going outdoors. Can't wait to hear what you have to say, Mark.
You forgot to say that you also have a trampoline. You want to hit on that before I...
All right, here. And I also, not under me right now, but yes, I do have a mini tramp. I don't allow myself to binge watch, unless I'm on it. I put it in front of, in fact, I hauled it into I've got a little movie theater, brought it in there. I step on top of it, and I'm bouncing. And believe me, before you start watching 4 or 5 hours of binge watching, if you're bouncing the whole time, you'll either get the workout of your life, or you'll stop after 2 hours. And you feel like, okay, time to go do something else. So I do have that. And I also have stand-up work desks. You might be able to tell from the perspective of the camera that I'm up in the air. I have 2 stand-up desks in my office and no chairs. And when I'm on the phone, because I'm already standing, and I, of course, as a coach, I spend a lot of time on the phone, I start walking. I start pacing and walk around the house and walk outside, walk back in, and I will clip off my 10,000 steps. I get 5 miles a day just on the phone coaching. And that's without even trying to work out. It's just because I was already standing. So that pacing thing can really pay off, and it's easier if you're standing already. There you go, Mark.
First of all, I want to hitchhike in everything you said. I too have a trampoline, but I also I do believe in resistance training. And the reason those of us over 40 need to do resistance training is you lose muscle mass every year, and you lose testosterone. You lose a lot of stuff unless you are literally physically doing some weight training. That is both men and women. It doesn't have to be heavy weights, but it's got to be weights. And do the full 360 degree range of it. And adds, I want to hitchhike on every point that he made. I agreed everything he said about diet. And then I'd like to say that I got to help the number one guy in Hollywood is Peter Guber, who's now a friend of mine. And he asked me to help with his book called Tell to Win. And we get to go to his 6th house, which is only $62 million in Kona, Hawaii. And he says, arrive at 9 o'clock at night on a Saturday night. And Crystal and I get a little rent-a-car SUV, and we're driving down the hill through 5 climate zones to get to this big dance. And we get down there, and there's a guy standing there that clearly, I was in Vietnam, so I'm clear what this guy was. He was special ops, and I could see driving the car through him, the car would be demolished. He'd still be standing there. We get out of the car, and he says, I'll carry you in all your suitcases. You get this casa. It was a gigantic casa. I couldn't believe it, the house. And he said, suit up. And I thought, oh, my gosh. Am I supposed to have brought a tuxedo? Because I'm wearing, a Hawaiian shirt and pants. And he said, no, exercise clothes. Peter wants you in the gym. He thinks the fountain of youth is exercising. And he's 80 years old. And if you look at him, he looks 40. He believes the fountain of youth is exercising twice a day. And Peter Guber has, got 50 Academy Awards for movies like Batman and Rain Man and Rocky and Humma, Humma, Humma. And I've seen every one of them on his walls in his house in Beverly Hills. And then one day Crystal and I are at dinner with him, and he eats really, really well. He is exceedingly disciplined bodybuilder. And he's a skinny so, but really super strong. And he said, I said, wow, this is amazing. What did you do today? He said, today I bought a little sports team. I said, oh, really? Now, remember, I came out of poverty, so I thought if I'd ever become a millionaire, I'd be in big time, hurrah, and never thought I'd get to hang out with the kind of people I get to hang out with, which is why you've got to succeed and not let yourself get despondent, disconsolate, depressed, and think hanging out in your own house is a bad thing. Peter said, I bought a little team called the Golden State Warriors today for $70 million.
I've heard of them.
Well, now it's 5 or 6 years later, and it's worth $3.8 billion, except they're not playing, of course. And I said, anything else? He said, yeah. Magic, and meaning Magic Johnson, of course. And I bought a little sports team called the Dodgers. The point I'm making here is that he says the only reason he can do it at 80 years old and looks 40, he looks eternally youthful, is that he exercises every day. And yes, he eats bountifully well. And so everything Mark said is correct. And what you got to do is make sure who are the people that you're letting mentor you, either living or dead, and what are they doing about it? Because yes, you should know thyself. And when you're knowing thyself, you want to put in high energy jet fuel into your body that is full of life force energy. Like here on my desk, I got green. I drink chlorophyll. I spice it with a little bit of stevia because he said it correct. Sugar is poison. We don't have. You ever come to one of my house? Mark was at my home yesterday. I promise you, we did not offer him a Coca-Cola. And if he had asked for one, he couldn't have gotten it at my house.
Yeah.
I am sure. That's phenomenal answer. And I'd just like to add on with regards to working out, little light weights while you watch TV, moving your knees up and down, and in this time of stress, movement releases anxiety. We need to move. And with regards to diet, sugar increases anxiety because you're going to have that spike and that drop and that spike and that drop. It really is so much easier on us to take care. And everything we put in our mouth, fuel or poison, every time we work out, we are creating our future. We're creating our future. And I just really think that that's so powerful. Oh, you gentlemen just absolutely inspire me, and I am so honored to be here with you. And do you have any closing comments as before we move on?
I'll go first, okay, Mark?
You bet.
I'm going to talk for all three of us. We want more for you than you want for yourself. We believe that we're here to source and serve you to the greatest, finest hour. We're here to help you create the blueprint for your future that is going to be extraordinary. Why would you want to be ordinary? You're God's greatest masterpiece. You've got the only, Mark was saying, the only voice print. You've got the only thumbprint. You've got a print that nobody talks about except me. Is the only mind print like you. Because your mindset creates your money set. Your mindset creates your health set. Your mind creates your lifestyle set. And what we're going to all get ready for is a more better, enjoyable lifetime than we've ever had before. And one of the things you got to do is you got to have a good sense of humor, because you only get to go through this once. There's no dress rehearsal here. You are on stage right now, and I'll finish with this little line. Shakespeare said, all life's a stage, and most people aren't smart enough to recognize who the walk-ons are. Well, right now, you can't have the walk-ons or walk-ins. So you got them, and you're it. You're probably living with them, and they're not walk-ons. They're your spouse, your kids, and grandkids. And I hope you love them as much as I love mine.
I love it.
That's beautiful.
Mark Fournier?
Sure, I'll add a little. Not that I need to top Mark. He's always, whatever he said can always be the last thing that needs to be said. But what the heck, why not? Just sneak something, a little icing on top of his icing. So one thing is that we do want to learn very quickly the difference between being a victor and a victim. And the victim mindset can really hold us back. And it's this idea, again, that it's kind of like, look what the world did to me. Look what's happening to me. That's not fair. It's not right. It's not okay. Even to the extreme of, I think maybe God just has it in for me. And I love to share with that is, really God, you mean the most powerful entity in the known universe? And you think he may have it in for you? And imagine the most powerful entity in the universe. I mean, omnipotent. If he had it in for you, you wouldn't think about it. You'd know. It'd be really obvious. So let's pretend that God doesn't have it in for you. In fact, it's quite the opposite. If you count your blessings, you'll say, God is ready. God is right here supporting me every step of the way. God keeps creating these opportunities, like the story of the person who was waiting on the top of the house to be saved. And the boat came along and said, hey, would you like to jump in our boat? No, I'm waiting for a sign from God. And then, these people kept coming trying to help him. And after the third time, he said, no, I'm still waiting for a sign from God. Well, he finally ends up drowning. And he says to God, why didn't you come to help me? He goes, what do you mean? I sent you a boat. I sent you a helicopter. I was giving you all sorts of signs and trying to help you out. So let's just assume that you have everything that you need, that it's all right there in front of you. And that the only thing really that's finally missing is something I'd love to leave you with. It's the first thing I tell my clients when they're interviewing with me to see if it's a good fit for them to coach with me, is as I tell them, listen, there's nothing more powerful than an absolute commitment, a commitment to whatever it may be. And that commitment says, I'll find a way. And it's as simple as that. So what I say is, listen, you bring the commitment and I'll bring the tools. And there'll be absolutely nothing we can't accomplish. So that's the purpose of this program, is you bring the commitment. This show is going to continue and we'll keep answering your questions. We'll bring the tools. And there's nothing that we can't do together.
I love it. Guess what? We're going to share some tools with you. Email us at questions, double check this because it's new for us, questions@questionmarks.online, and we will send you a PDF of some of the tools that these two brilliant minds have shared today. And we really appreciate you. And like both Marks said, you have it. It's within you. Fear and belief cannot live in the same space, and we'd like you to invite belief to stay.
Thank you very much. Create an awesome day, an awesome week, and an awesome life.
Indeed. Fun being with you all.
On behalf of Mark Victor Hansen, MARK Fournier, and Deanne Lenson, thank you for listening in to Question Marks. We look forward to joining you in our weekly Q&A. And remember, if you wish to ask questions, please email them to questions@questionmarks.online. And if you would like to learn more about our weekly podcast or wish to gain additional tools and support, please go to our landing page, questionmarks.online. Thank you again, and create a great day.